Hold on a second, I'm still changing some stuff up. I just need to change. Oops, let me just back here. Should be live. It looks that way. And I'm just fixing some stuff, so just bear with me for a moment. Video manager, just changing some YouTube stuff. Go into the control room. Alright, that looks good. And I'm just going to tweet out this link. And I'm gonna, oops, that's not what I wanted. Just quick. Alright, there we go. Okie dokie, let's tweet this thing out. Just bear with me for a second. Okie dokie, it should be tweeted out now. Okie dokie. So, first of all, I'm just going to turn down the audio a little bit because I need to hear myself talk, otherwise I'm getting a little bit confused. This should be fine. And we're going to turn on subtitles only. Okay. Alright, so first of all, what is the Stanley Parable? That is kind of a hot debated subject, really. It is, in my opinion, it's a game. And in comparison to Gone Home, which I see as an interactive installation or art installation or art piece, like Dear Esther, because there is, like Total Biscuit has mentioned a lot of times, in order for a game to be classified as a game, what you need is a failure state. So when you have, so to speak, a detriment to the player, or a setback, that is a failure state. But there's many forms of failure states, and the Stanley Parable has a very unique type of failure state that I haven't seen anywhere else. And it's also one of the reasons I love the game so much, is because when you play it, you don't actually lose, it's more that you make a different choice. And my argument in this whole thing is that the fact that you chose an ending, and I know all the endings because I've played this game to death, I love it so much, but the fact that you choose an ending that may or may not be what you expected, but at the same time you eliminate the possibility of getting all the other endings while you choose to take that ending. I know it was a little bit long-winded, but I also kind of lost my thread of, or my trail of thought halfway through explaining this right now. But when you play the Stanley Parable and you get to an ending, you basically cease to have the ability in your choice of making that one ending to get the other ending, unless you start the game again, which is what we're going to get into. So, let's start the game.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay, so through this intro cinematic, what you could actually tell, I mean, so you have a narrator, right? And that narrator is basically narrating everything you're saying, and also I probably just got a Facebook message, and I'm trying not to reply because I'm streaming right now and I am annoyed. Great. Anyway, you push buttons. I don't know if you can hear this, but whenever you push a button, usually a typing sound will come, but it seems that is not the case right now. Hold on. Oh yeah, there we go. Whoops.
But Stanley
okay, so I just made a choice.
What if he had to make
I just got an ending.
What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for
I'll
that.
get to...
No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to
I'll get to what I meant with the
Nothing
intro
will
cinematic
hurt me.
and what it
Nothing
kind of
will
rips
break
on.
me.
But
And here
just
I
keep
can
in
be
mind
happy
QuickTime events. That's
forever.
actually what it's really
I will
ripping
be
on.
happy.
And
Stanley waited.
the entire
Hours
game is really a
passed.
commentary
Days.
on
Had years gone by?
game
He
development
no
and
longer had the
gameplay
ability to
itself,
tell.
and
But the
I'll
one thing he knew
show
for
you
sure,
some
beyond
endings
any
where
doubt,
that is
was
really
that if he
true.
waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
And there we go. So we start the game again. Also, I love this, the end is never, the end is never, the end is never, the end is never loading. Or the end is loading. Right. Anyway.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Now there's a secret if you step on this chair, which also you can't jump. There's actually an achievement if you spam the jump button. Yeah, there we go. You can actually break the map here, but I won't do that until maybe later. But as you noticed, when you play the game, you get narration, right? Kind of like with Gone Home, except for that in Gone Home, most of the narration is triggered by whatever stuff you read or pick up. To be honest, okay, so to be fair, I gave Gone Home a good 2 hours. I tried to the best of my ability to find every little detail I could find in that interactive experience. And I couldn't find too much of the things that really interested me. One of the things being is that I was more invested in the side stories, and the side stories just seemed to go nowhere. And all of it was just written in a way that wasn't too gripping for me. However, that is very subjective. Now, what makes Stanley Parable a game? Right, so let me first explain the intro sequence you have. Of course, I can't go back. The intro sequence. So, you see yourself, Stanley, pushing buttons on a keyboard. And you seem to be made exactly for that job. It's kind of a rip on playing games, as if the button pushing is giving satisfaction, as in Skinner's Principle. Some games use Skinner's Principle, but I don't think most of us really do enjoy those QTEs unless they're really done well on an epic setting. I mean, Call of Duty QTEs, for instance, oh god, they're just terrible. Terrible in my opinion. I mean, they're just boring, and you can't really pay attention to the action. But you know, some things
Stanley stood for a long time in one spot. It's part of a game. He likes to see how long he can go without dying. So far, he's doing excellent. And if he just stays right where he is, I'm sure he'll keep up that good momentum. Let's observe the genius at work.
Alright, so I was just kindly interrupted by the narrator. However, as you can see, that is also an option. If you just stand around and do nothing and let me ramble on, the narrator will be like, "Oi, are you playing this game or not?" It's beautiful commentary, really. And the things you get to explore are just fantastic. Also, there's a lot on level design, and we will visit... Oops, I didn't even know you could get up here. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. That's kind of cool. Wow. Cool. Sweet. Learn something new every day. Can I get up here? Oh, maybe. Nope, nope. See, everything's kind of hard without jumping. However, the game also includes secrets. The game, most importantly, it allows you to make choices. It allows you, the player, to either follow the narrator's direction or not. And just for the sake of demonstration, I think I'm going to run through the first playthrough
set of two open doors,
by following the narrator. So we're going to go left. However, in Gone Home, it's just a linear path, really. I mean, yeah, you can basically finish the game within 45 seconds.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
I'm just going to leave you with these wonderful slides here because I always think they're hilarious. But you can't really make any real choices in Gone Home. There's one ending, all the notes are the same, no matter how often you play the game. The story actually, always has the same angle, or I mean, yes, you can't really compare it to the way Stanley Parable handles things. However, from being having the bare minimum,
doing nothing at all. He seems to think I have nothing
Right,
better
right,
to do
right.
with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything.
I'm
This is
sorry.
why Stanley and I are on such good terms. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Right, so anyway, I'm just gonna slightly keep moving just so the narrator just doesn't blurt out at me while I'm talking. I'm sorry, this is a stream. I should probably have done a recording, but all my hard drives are kind of full, so I really don't feel like recording stuff because it clutters my hard drive. So anyway, I was saying, you don't have any meaningful choices. You can have the choice to progress or not to progress, which in my opinion, is just not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough to just experience a story in a 3D rendered with mouse or keyboard or controller controlled environment and just walk through and enjoy and smell the roses of a lovely pure love between a lesbian couple that was so poorly written it got me so bored, and I was more interested in the mother possibly having an affair and the father possibly having been touched by the uncle that the lesbian sister tried to summon for whatever reason. It is never really elaborated on. There's so many detrimental problems with the writing. It feels like an incomplete book. No, really, not even choose your own adventure, because like I've said before, you don't make any choices. You just, exist in that installation and you just walk through it. To what end?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
So, as you can tell, the way the narrator, gives you the hints, and the way the narrator comments on your actions are slightly amusing. They can be even more amusing depending on what ending you choose and what choices you make within the game. So the fact that you can actually, decide not to do anything, like, that is also a choice. You can just stand around. You can even shut yourself in the broom closet until the game restarts on its own. You can do so many things in this, I really do have to call it game, because the choices you make actually have an impact on the story, or your choices have meaning. And I think that is what makes the great difference between Gone Home and the Stanley Parable. Gone Home isn't a game because your choices aren't meaningful. They don't have any weight. They don't impact anything, and that feels terrible. A game that is story-driven, specifically story-driven games, especially story-driven games, should let you make choices that have an impact on the outcome of the story. Not even the outcome. You know what? It could be the same outcome, but at least it changes the story in some fashion, one way or another. Loading.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Now, by the way, what I'm doing is I'm doing the linear path. Alright? So I'm doing the path that is the closest to Gone Home, the one without choices.
Stanley
Basically,
walked straight ahead through the large door.
I'm going to let him ramble.
Mind control facility.
So, as you can see right here, this is for a first-time player, as the museum describes, this is the choices that this is really the first choice that is there, except for maybe like closing the door by accident, which I did at the beginning of the stream. This is really the first choice that is introduced. This is the point where the player is let's take a newbie player, because these games are always designed for players that may have actually never touched a video game in their life. So this is the point where the first choice really occurs, because naturally a normal player would, or let's not say a gamer, let's say a first-time player would probably follow the instructions maybe until this point, and then they're like, wait a minute, it says escape here. I wonder what's down here. And I think we're going to do this after the first run through, because it leads to the museum and it shows the all the design choices the game developers made while making this game. However, I find this interesting because, as you see, let me just walk back here. So you just came down here, right? You would naturally turn. You would see mind control facility, but in your peripheral vision, you would usually see escape. Maybe, I'm reading too much into this, but in my mind, I think this is really the first real choice that you would make as a gamer. Or as a player, sorry. Gamer might actually, do something different because they're used to playing video games.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
And actually, I think I'm just going to quickly show you a secret here, because I'm probably not going to get back to this, because I don't want to do this run through again. It takes time. It takes time away from the stream. So, yeah.
Their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Alright, so just to clarify, I can't see the chat. I would have to Alt-Tab, which would pause the image of the stream, but it wouldn't actually disrupt the stream. But I could check this chat maybe like once every 10 or 20 minutes if there's even anyone in the chat. I have no idea if that is the case. I could probably check with the Steam overlay, but yeah, actually let me do that. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna finish this playthrough, and then I'm gonna take a very short break. First I gotta show you the secret as well.
It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Alright, so usually you would go up this elevator, and you would get to the mind control, or the on-off switch, which I'm going to get to, but first I'm going to show you the secret. If you wait here long enough, the door will open and I can show you the secret. In the meanwhile, I'm going to roll a cigarette, so excuse me for a while because I need a smoke. Just bear with me. I know I've said that probably too often. Oh, there we go. Almost done rolling. Just almost done. Okay, pack this away. Alright, so the secret. Woohoo! Okay,
No,
so that was fun.
he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Possible? Had he spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the controls labeled with emotions. Happy. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, he decided that this machinery would again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
So, this is where the developer said this is where most of the people actually and it goes to a different sequence. So this is basically the main story choice that you can really make that is really significant. It's two completely different endings. I'm just gonna spoil it and say the on ending is a GLaDOS-esque ending, and the off is the freedom ending. So we're just gonna do the freedom ending for now, and I'm gonna ramble on and quickly check the chat after we're done with this ending.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom
My bad.
was mere moments away. And yet, the immense door slowly opened, reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange hold? Sunlight streamed into the chamber. He realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness.
Also, the music is beautiful.
His goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. Stanley was happy.
Depression Quest, this is how you make music. This is a wonderful piano piece. I love the ending theme for that ending. So, I'm just gonna quickly step out of here, and I'm gonna explain a few things. So, if you read into the narrator's dialogue in that moment, you can tell that he says, you know, this is all you need to know, this is the way it was supposed to happen, yada 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 yada, and this is how it should go down. That's the linear end, right? But you have the choice not to choose the linear ending. And I think that is what makes this game really powerful, is that you do have the choice not to be told what exact outcome you want, what experience you do want to experience. And I think that is wonderful. And I think it is why actually the Stanley Parable, which by the way came out 2 months after Gone Home, should have won all those awards that Gone Home did. because essentially you could argue they are in a similar genre, except for that Stanley Parable is an actual game, and it doesn't follow an agenda except for that it panders to the audience that it was made for. Gone Home does that as well, but maybe the medium of choice was not necessarily the correct one. And what I mean with this is you could have easily made Gone Home a simple book. You could have made it a movie. You could have made it every other medium out there. However, video game doesn't quite fit it. Why? Because of the lack of choice and because of the lack of failure state. As you can see, my failure state was I didn't get the confusion ending, I didn't break the map, I got a secret because I knew how to do it. But essentially, I didn't get the power off ending, I didn't get anything except for that one ending. So essentially, I've won, but at the same time, I've failed. However, you would say, wait a minute, that's a forced failure state. That is something that you cannot control, because as soon as you choose an ending, you can't, of course you can't get any of the other endings. Yeah, but you chose the ending, which means your choice led to a victory, but at the same time a failure. So, right, this point is, I will admit, not exactly the strongest for a failure state. However, there are possibilities of where you can kill yourself. Actually, let me demonstrate.
Came to a set of 2 open doors. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Now, you would say,
yes,
I'm just going to let him ramble because I walked too fast.
It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Right. So, on the one hand, death isn't always,
okay. Get back to Stanley took the first open door on his left.
So, I think the narration would come. Pause the game, and let me check the chat. I don't know if you can see my Steam overlay. I hope you can't. As far as I remember, that is not a possibility. Right. So, we got 8 viewers. I suppose that is acceptable. Not really much going on in the chat. Someone wrote intriguing. Thank you. I'm doing my best. I know I don't really have a following on either YouTube or Twitter. I'm a small-time guy, but I'm doing my best to contribute to Gamergate and maybe also to the discussion on games in general. Now, death isn't always a failure state that is seen as a failure state, because yeah, you can die, but here it's also just another end. Elf is the failure, or is the getting in the ending the failure state? And actually, the reason why I would say every single time you say it is because, for instance, death is one of them. Actually, there's where you can choose death as your failure state or winning state. Either way,
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Actually, I promised
Stanley,
I would do
I think
the...
perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time.
How about no?
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Okay, so the narration on that ending is also very, it really explains it. It says, oh look, you went against the linear ending, that the wonderful story I laid out for you. Well, yeah, but at the same time he compliments you for the choice you've made. He says, yeah, that is not exactly what I expected, and great, you've proven to everyone that you're in control, but, yeah, you killed yourself. Congratulations. Now, I'm going to show you the museum ending.
Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
As you can see, also, the beginning sequence has different narrations, and actually the rooms spawn differently every time you start the game anew.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I'm just gonna quickly speedrun to the, or speedrun, quote unquote, I can't sprint, so...
Yet there was not a single person here either.
I'm just gonna quickly run to the
Stanley decided to go
what do you
up
call
to
it,
his boss's
mind
office.
control facility,
Coming to a staircase,
and show you the
Stanley
museum.
walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's
I forgot the
desk,
passcode, my bad.
books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk.
I need to wait until he gives me the combination.
Be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
Okay,
of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
I'm gonna show you another secret. This is a reference to the demo. I recommend you at least try the demo. Yeah, that 8.
Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Okie dokie. Going to the museum. Also, I have the original mod lying around somewhere. I could eventually stream that, but I don't think it's necessary. I like the source version much more.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
So...
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get...
Sorry about that. I'm just gonna quickly check the stream. Okie dokie. Continuing on.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
I'm going to willingly confront my death, which is technically also an ending. Loading. 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 I hope nobody samples that. Well, shit.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, it reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Alright, here we go.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
And boom. Here we go to the museum.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
So here, this is the museum. So this is basically it's the credits. This is the credits page. So what they do is they give you all these wonderful set pieces, and let you explore of how they developed the game and how they promoted it, and how they made it, and what went into the design and why they made it, and stuff like that. So these are the buttons, button sounds, the office, door numbers, different types of floor and door and whatnot. So I kind of like this ending because it's very interesting to find out about how they made the game. And for instance, this is one of the advertisement campaigns, Greenlight. Something that has been cut. They were like, oh, maybe we're going to do a war zone. And in early development, we designed an ending where Stanley would end up on a battlefield fighting aliens. This action game would become sentient and would wage war against the narrator. We realized shortly after starting to build it that it was far too jokey and on the nose for the tone of the game. Plus, some interpreted it as making fun of people who like shooters. Not our intention. So these are basically the editor's notes, or in this case the developer's notes. And to have resource to this, just by playing the game, just by choosing a different ending, that you get this demonstration of what work actually goes into designing, and it's fantastic. And actually, these are some of the emails that the narrator got. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's it really shows what work goes into creating an experience that is like no other. And Stanley Parable really is it is an experience like no other, because it lets you make choices and comments on the way you make them and why you make them and how you decide to make them and why you possibly would decide to make them. And instead, like Gone Home instead just it hands you a story and says, look, this is our wonderful piece of art that you can explore, and you can walk through this digital space and explore what story we've laid out for you. I'm not really exploring anything in Gone Home at all. I'm just being led by the nose because I'm just being led by the nose by fucking Sam and her journal. I can't fathom it. I think this is the point where I would say I can't stand Gone Home for doing that. There are a lot of linear games that tell a story by leading you on, really give you no freedom. Take Call of Duty for an example, or in any corridor shooter, right? Or just games that tell a story. But all those games are games that are, first of all, fun to play because they give you some sort of challenge. Stanley Parable might not have a lot of challenge. Maybe the challenge isn't getting all the secrets and all the narrations you can find. That's really the challenge that is in the Stanley Parable. and the games give you choices. Maybe not choices that impact the story. Not, even linear games just give you very simple, have to be moral choices. They give you, let's take Serious Sam, at least Serious, gives you any choices. Maybe it gives you the finding all the secrets and finding, all the hidden passageways and all the key cards. It's very similar to what the Stanley Parable does with finding all. It's because it has some aspect to it that still makes it a game. Gone Home doesn't have any of that aspect. It's no challenge. You just really watch and read the. Yeah, you can't. This is at all. Did I just? I hope I didn't read it to repeat myself. Yeah, there's a story there. And yeah, there's not just one story. There's technically, one about the dad, one about the mom, one about Sam, the main story, and, maybe a little bit of a story with the postcards and your trip to Europe as Katie. Any of it intriguing. The only thing I really found intriguing was the story of the mother possibly cheating because the marriage is just shit at the moment. And, it's not started out of the blue because they're lesbian. It was something that was building, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I want to know more about these two people. Old author and a wife that was a hippie and can't seem to hope. Actually, this is one of the plot holes I really don't understand. The mother was a hippie, in the 80s or 70s, or, she's one of those really green, let's go green, a forestry. She takes care of the but then she that her daughter's the character sense. I thought that was really from the father. I would expect, okay, okay, the father is, that JFK pin, all that, conspiracy theories, where I find out You Can Do Better was dropped by his father, and he's to impress his father, writing. That was way more interesting than that in a dysfunctional, but surely dysfunctional family. And bystander, but kind of are bystander by just figuring the concept too shoddy, or just really think the writing is too incomplete. There were some good just to shit up. I bet the main author wrote the main. I bet it was the male author, but he probably didn't have time to do them, because some of the connections I made were actually intriguing, and I kind of like a detective role, and I kind of get more. I know I've been standing in the same place for a while, but here the narrative my fucking nerves. I can explore. I can explore all this crap, and I can really explore the Stanley Parable in a way that is game-like. It's nothing is forced. Oh, that looks kind of Portal-esque. Right, this is the Zending, the buttons thing, which is kind of difficult to get, and I'm not probably gonna do this in this stream. Anyway, I'm getting way too sidetracked by this game. Terrible. I really have and fun in the endings, and then what the purpose behind you as the player and the purpose of the narrator, because there's so many that of just you being disobedient sometimes and picking your own path and pissing off the narrator sad, going back at just being you, the player. And you can't see it right now, but I have a big face talking, because for me, experience, I love it. And then when I look at Gone Home, I just feel, because I was actually giving it my best interest. I was really as interested and invested as possible, and I think on that I tried to go in with as you know, the least amount of bias possible. However, that I have a lot of bias. Most definitely have a lot of bias on Gone Home. But from my personal experience, if I compare the Stanley Parable to Gone Home, Stanley Parable is by miles, artistically, gameplay-wise, generally more superior, and or just superior to Gone Home. Just look at all this planning, you know, the planning that they made for the layouts, the planning that they made for how the narration is going to come, how, you know, for specific endings, you know, the apartment timer, like they removed the timer, instead it was just ringing. I'm probably going to show you what's up with this phone. I mean, I'm making a lot of references to the games that I haven't shown you yet. But I think the information stands on its own, even if you haven't seen or haven't played the Stanley Parable. You know, if you haven't shown you yet and haven't played the Stanley Parable. But yes, Gone Home in that sense is really just...
Oh, look at these two. They wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another.
Not a game.
How they both wish to be free. Can you see how much they need one another? Perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. Save these two. You can stop the program before...
Oops, sorry. I was just quickly checking the chat. I mean, you don't seem to...
And press quit.
You know, you can go ahead and talk among yourselves.
Forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, and it'll be your only choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose.
Alright, I'm not going to let time choose for me, so let's begin the game again. So, I've been ranting and rambling and really, I guess, pouring my heart out about this. I enjoy this medium so much. Also, I think there's a secret here.
All of his co-workers were gone. He decided to... Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Console somehow. Options. Action, miscellaneous, strafe. Buttons, turn left, console, backspace. Doesn't seem to be working. Sorry, bros. Yeah, you can the key clicking sound to barking, which is kind of funny. So yeah, as you can see, the layout changed.
When Stanley came to a set of doors, he only his left.
Right. So, what did I wanted to show you again? I showed the what's it called? I showed you the main ending. Or the museum ending.
Perfectly well.
And
perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first. Just.
I'm going to play the shit ending.
But back to business. He took the first open lift.
Which is, I think I'm going to choose.
It's incredible he wasn't.
Excuse me.
Years
I'm
ago.
I'm gonna stream all the endings that have the on game and game engineering. And
we've gotten off on the wrong.
How the game on gameplay and on game development but he explains in itself.
Please, I'd not.
Gone Home is not a game.
I'm asking for her.
Right?
This is it, Stanley. Your child work aside. Waiting.
Okay, sorry that I was talking over the narrator. I hope not the gist of it, but basically on commentary on gameplay because they really show that it's not a game or should not be as one, and it also shows how the Stanley Parable is superior, not only as an art installation, because I think it's kind of both. It's an art installation and it's a game because it use, but at the same time, the failure states are kind of failure states. However, it is also, you know, a game where you're not doing much of an action except for buttons on your keyboard, and maybe the mouse E.
Stanley, you need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly, then
oh dear. How about no?
filling him not with obedience, but with hope. Life reunited one. Wait. Oh goodness. No, that wasn't. Voice. How did you do that? I didn't even know. Here, clear as day, since his wife. The music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No. Possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't... I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. Been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person, but if used incorrectly can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person, Stephen, has a choice. Years helping citizens of impoverished third world nations, or he could systematically set fire to every orphan 30-kilometer radius of his house. Which would you make? Remember, and at no time should you make a choice conform to rational logic. If you find yourself a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking.
Insert SJW joke here.
Practice saying, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back sack and crack.
Okay. My goodness, is it 4:30? I am supposed to have a back sack and crack.
Excellent. This is on a regular basis, part through a health-making process. Most manuals recommend you make more than 8, less. And finally, if you begin to wonder if you're actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just when problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should. At this time, the will guide you in an exercise to reinforce the material video.
Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this result, now that you're properly informed on good decision making, to read minutes ago and see what the correct thing have been. Please.
So yeah, that's a thing. So anyway, I hope you like. I love. But so yeah, this is about choice. It's not necessarily about the failures or about the winning states or about gaining anything other than experience. You know, not experience. You just experience in the broad term. But yeah, funny. Especially you're going to see in this next sequence that that your choices are have become a little bit limited.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Exactly. So basically, the narrator is telling you, wait a minute, you're real. This is real. I should probably not let you walk around because you may or may not end the game, you know, on a note that is not supposed to be in any way the way we scripted it. So, here we go. But of course, you know, this is a game, so pretty much every ending is scripted.
Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be in the real world. Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late. Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. What? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to. I'm here. I'm still here.
Everything's
here in this
wrecked.
pile of rubbish. With you, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story.
You can insert
If you'd
so
just
many
gone through the door on
SJW
the
jokes.
left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard.
Okay, then.
Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry.
Okay.
Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right.
Sorry for
When
repeating this
Stanley came to a
segment
set
so
of 2
often.
open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Let's just go ahead. I believe he would have to do it again, but
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find another. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
All right. Oh yeah, this.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
I believe you can't speak anyway, so this is basically a dead end. Like there's no key and the microphone doesn't work.
Stanley spoke the code. Nightshark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
So I'm just gonna wait here until the narrator gets frustrated.
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step.
Negatory.
Okay, fine, you're not gonna do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please. I need you to make a choice. Walk through the door.
And there you have it.
Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please.
Ooh,
Sure.
Robin Arnott made the sound design for this. Interesting.
Anything?
Okay, Robin Arnott.
I need this. The story needs it.
I don't get it.
So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this?
You know, the game is wonderful. You know,
Okay.
I suppose,
Yeah, I can wait.
even though he might be involved in this controversy, or he was involved in this controversy, you know, it's,
I'll wait for you
at the same
to
time,
decide what's the right thing
he
to do.
helped make this awesome piece of crap.
Take as much time
I
as you
mean,
need.
this awesome piece of work. I didn't mean to say crap. I'm sorry. Anyway, so this is one of the endings, where you basically make meaningful choices and you end up not being Stanley anymore because you're human and not a character in a game. So the way the Stanley Parable really handles story and narration is unique to say the least. Gone Home did it in a very traditional linear way. The thing that frustrates me is that a game that can think out of the box and really went out of its way to think out of the box and provide an experience that is entirely unique, whereas, you know, Gone Home, we already had Dear Esther. Stanley Parable, you know, some people call it a walking simulator. Yeah, that's fair enough, right? But I would say Gone Home is a little bit more of a walking simulator than Stanley Parable is. And I think the fact that Gone Home got all the awards and Stanley Parable was left in the dust is so it pisses me off so much. And I think this is the reason why I made this stream. Anyway, I'm just gonna quickly check the stream. Yeah, a lot of people left. I suppose that's okay. I think you've listened to me ramble on for long enough. This has been going on for about 1 hour and 12 minutes. If anyone in the chat wants to ask a few questions or wants me to do a specific ending, now is the time to drop that line from the few people that are watching. This will, of course, be an automatic recording, and it will be on YouTube, and it will be freely available. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes, seconds for your questions to come in, because there is a delay. Just the fact that Gone Home got all the awards and Stanley Parable was left in the dust is so it pisses me off so much. And I think this is the reason why I made this stream. Anyway, I'm just gonna quickly check the stream. Yeah, a lot of people left. I suppose that's okay. I think you've listened to me ramble on for long enough. This has been going on for about 1 hour and 12 minutes. If anyone in the chat wants to ask a few questions or wants me to do a specific ending, now is the time to drop that line. I'm still waiting for you guys to drop me some this will, of course, be an automatic recording, and it will be on YouTube, and it will be freely available. So I'm just going to wait a few minutes, seconds for your questions to come in, because there is a delay. Just the fact that Gone Home got all the awards. All right. Well, I see that really nobody has any real questions. So I'm just gonna quickly break the map.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Yep,
no matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
All right, here, let's break the map. And boom.
At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet?
So here you get the choice. No would be a commentary on the nature of games and the nature of this game specifically, and the yes would also just be a rip on what if you chose no. So since the chat doesn't really seem to have any questions for me, I'm gonna just quickly choose no, because I think it's the most insightful, and I'm gonna close down the stream after that. Thank you for having me. For the few people that watched, of course this recording will be available widely, and I hope at least some people decide to watch it. It's entirely up to you. I hope you do. I hope I did a somehow fair job of assessing and comparing Gone Home and the Stanley Parable. Maybe I'll do a stream of Gone Home itself later on, and really point out the problems I've had with it, and basically do a playthrough, even though I know it is very hard for most of the people to sit through that boring sack of shit interactive experience. Notice how I caught myself not saying game, because game would be just too easy. Anyway, here's the insight, because I think this game does a way better job at explaining game design and game engineering than I am.
Ah, then in that case we'll continue. But now, here comes the real question. What do you think would have happened if you had told me that you wanted this to stop? Do you think it would have been particularly different? Would I have taken the same idea but rephrased it superficially to fit that answer? Perhaps you never would even have thought of it if I hadn't brought up the issue in the first place. Oh, now think about it. Will it be worth it for you to restart and then come back here just to do the other option? Clearly, this whole gag takes some time. What if the other option is even longer? How long will you spend in total just to have heard all the narration? Oh, and this is rich. Perhaps you've just played the other option, and now you've come to see what happens in this one. So, what do you think? Which choice was the better one? Imagine if you had selected Continue on your first playthrough, how tantalizing it would be not knowing what happens when you pick the other option. Indeed, you are one of the lucky ones. Though if the other option is really miserable to listen to, then perhaps you're not. In fact, I'm just going to say that no one who's listening to this is lucky. Well now, I've built up the other option so much that I'm going to stop talking and leave you to your decision whether to come back here, continue with the game, or just sit in this spot forever and ever. Cheers.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly begin the game again, because I remembered just now that you actually get a song with the yes option.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet? Well, I don't know how to say this politely, but you could literally just hit escape and restart the game any old time you want, like right now. You could have done it just then. Now would also be an appropriate time to quit. Any of these points and so many, many more, all of them are appropriate. I'm enjoying what seems to be an internal conflict going on where you are literally unable to act on your own desires to restart the game. So, just to push the envelope, I'm going to try and make this as miserable as possible and see how long you can maintain. There once was a man named Stanley, who people considered so manly. But the truth must be told, he was not very old and was quite particularly gangly. What Stanley liked most was buttons. He pushed them like some kind of glutton. He did it all day in a meaningful way, but his brain had long ceased to function. Which is why he is in this parable and lives an existence quite terrible. And if you are not strong and keep playing along, you too will become quite unbearable.
Yes.
You too will become quite unbearable.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining in the stream. I'm going to quit the stream now, and I hope you have a nice evening or morning or whatever the hell time it is at your play or your whatever. This is recorded anyway, so have a nice day. How about that? I think that is universal enough. I hope my ramblings weren't too annoying. I hope my voice doesn't sound too terrible. I hope I could provide some form of insight, and I really do hope that I can get some constructive criticism on this, because I value constructive criticism, and I value being wrong, actually. If you can tell me why I'm wrong, I'd be obliged to have a discussion. So, please do. You can contact me on Twitter at CoolDaddy, and you can also, of course, leave comments in the comment section below. Thank you for joining in, and I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. Good day to you.